Hi, I'm Jim Knotts, President and CEO of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund. Welcome to today's virtual reading of the names. 2022 marks the 40th anniversary of the dedication of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C. As part of our commemoration, we'll host an in-person reading of the names at the wall from November 7th through 10th, 2022, when all 58,281 names on the wall will be read aloud. In the lead up to that event, we'll be reading names each day online while sharing the photos of these heroes. For our daily virtual reading, the names of the service members will be read by month and day of death between the years 1956 and 1975 in alphabetical order for the given day. We apologize in advance for any mispronunciations. Know that our readers are doing their best to honor these service members. We hope you'll listen and watch each day and share with others as we remember and honor those who gave their lives during the Vietnam War.
Donald Wayne Atkins, Lemuel Lenole Alewine, Terry de la Mesa Allen Jr., Edward Eugene Anderson, Larry Michael Anderson, David James Batinger, Gary Lee Barker, Alvis T. Barrington Jr., Juan Benitez, James Lissman Blackwell Jr., Jackie Everett Boland Jr., Harry Owen Bowles, Barry Allen Bowman, Clifford Lynn Breeden Jr., John Ramsey Bregler, Barry Lee Brown, Anthony Blake Cadwell, Santos Camaro, Ralph Carrasco, Elward David Cheney Jr., Robert Michael Cheek, Charles Robert Chemis, Mark Constant Chenis, Michael Lewis Chamora, Horton Seisler Coker Jr., Lawrence Henry Collier, Melvin Bruce Cook, Edward Joseph Corcoran, Michael Eugene Coates, Richard Lee Kreitz, Joe Albert Crutcher, Ralph Olin Doherty Jr., John Thomas DeBarber, Jerry Frederick DeGray, Gareth John Deal, Wallace Joseph Deprio, Freddie Dale Dickens, Wesley Ellsworth Dodson, Francis Ellsworth Dowling, Arthur Mitchell Downs, Harold Bascom Durham Jr., Edward Philip Dye, Leon Nelson East, Morris Stephen Ellis, Gary Wayne Engelhardt, William Welton English Jr., Lauren Ray Everett, Anthony John Familiari, Michael James Farrell, John Raymond Ferrazzano, Paul L. Fitzgerald Jr., Frederick John Fortner, William David France, Robert Lee Fuqua Jr., Michael Joseph Gallagher, Arturo Garcia, Melesso Garcia, Marcus Jose Garcia, Alan Timothy Gee, David Arthur Gilbert, Stanley Donald Gilbert, Verland Ansel Gilbertson, Willie Van Gorey, Alan Upton Graham,
Ray Neal Gribble, William Thomas Haney, Olin Hargrove Jr., Christopher Irv Herderick, James Allen Hockridge, Donald Walter Hollader, David Robert Hauser, William M. Huberty, Kenneth John Ivory, Dalton Earl Jackson, Edward Jackson Jr., Alan Dale Jagalow, Alan Theodore Jensen, Richard William Jones, Wilbert Earl Jones, Charles Floyd Kennedy, William Max Kotnick, Robert Wilson Krall, John Daniel Creasy, James Caleb Lambert Jr., Jerry David Lancaster, James Edward Larson, Frederick William Lennon, Gary Jean Lincoln, Joe Lovato Jr., Andrew Patrick Luberta, James Philip Mason, Roderick Lewis Mayer, Michael John McGonigal, Thomas Leon McKenzie, Arthur Gerald McNally, Guy Lamar Mears Jr., Emil George McGivern, Irvin George Miller, Michael Merlin Miller, Raymond Benjamin Minus, Dan Ross Moore, Antonio Morales Jr., Joe Davis Moultrie, Timothy James Murphy, Robert Joseph Nagy, David Lamprey Nicholas, Aubrey Eldon Nobles, Stanley Edward Olmsted, Stephen Larry Ostroff, Peter Allen Penfold, Walter Platos, Eugene John Pleer, Sidney Gerald Pollard, Joseph Lewis Powell Jr., James Joseph Quinn III, Garland Jerome Randall, Edward Harold Rausch, Ronnie Dean Reese, Alan Vincent Riley, Raymond Jefferson Ross Jr., William Robert Roussos, Edward George Solanish, Harry Carl Sarsfield, Jack Wayne Schroeder, Dane York Scott, Jack Edward Searing, Jackie Eccles Schubert, Daniel Sikorsky,
Charles Eugene Silloway, David Lee Skinner, Alan Eugene Smith, Luther Augustus Smith, David Pershing States, Paul Amos Stokes, Christopher S. Stew, James Newton Sweet, John Merle Thayer, Michael Clare Thomas, Charles Edward Thomas, Theodore Dave Thomas Jr., Pasquale Joseph Tizio, George Harry Townsend, Anthony Joseph Vacus Jr., Robert Mitchell Webb Jr., Richard D. Weeder, Benton Claude Williamson, Kenneth Pete Wilson, John Charles Yates, Robert Yates Sr., John Carl Zager,